Welcome to Missing on Monday, where the details of a new missing persons case will be explored each week. Some of the content covered may be sensitive. Listener discretion is advised. Hi.
Hi, happy Monday. We're back and I'm so excited for today's episode.
Yes. So excited. This is
one of the first ones. Actually, Mary Johnson, I feel like we went in on together and both did research and tried to kind of compile.
It was our first episode,
very first episode.
Yeah.
But this is kind of the first one since then that we both have put our noggins together. We have watched hours of the documentary, repeatedly. Very interesting story. You may have heard of it. Candace, take it away.
Yes. So today we are talking about Andrea Knabel. She was born January 7th, 1982. She went missing from Louisville, Kentucky in the very early hours of August 13th, 2019.
Did you know that natives pronounce it Louisville?
I did not know that.
Because I got that because when I was watching the documentary, Nancy said that she moved out of Louisville. And I thought she was saying Louisville. And I was like, where the hell is Louisville?
You're like, where's that?
And then Andrea, in that little clip of her, she said, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Derby or something like that. And I was like, never heard of it. I thought it was in Louisville. And then I realized, anyway, yeah, natives pronounce it Louisville.
All right. Well, I'm going to call it Louisville because I feel like people will know where Louisville, Kentucky, what we're referring to. So Andrea is the middle child of three girls. I am a middle child.
I mean, kind of. Technically, in your role in your family, it was more like the big sister, if we're being real. Maybe
the big sister / mom.
/ mom. Exactly.
Everybody.
All the things.
Even though, I mean, technically, in my main household, I was the baby. But
I
have a little brother also. Even though he's older. But then I also have a little brother that came from, he has a different dad. So that's how I'm saying, I'm the middle child. I guess when I say that, I was definitely treated as the middle child from my mom.
That makes, because for her, I was the middle child,
yes. Well, and I wasn't a boy, so I also sucked.
That's not nice.
I'll be
God
nice.
Bless you, mama.
She is cursing me right now from heaven, girl.
Sorry, Marty. We love you.
Love you, mom. Okay. So her sister Erin is the oldest, and she's 3 years older, and they were actually born on the same day. How random.
Crazy.
I mean, I guess it's not that.
You and Ryan were born fairly close together.
We could have been born on the same day.
The same day, 3 years apart. You want to hear a really strange, really quick story?
Real quick. We barely got into this.
I know. Colton's grandfather on his dad's side is a twin and has two older twin brothers, and all four of them were born on the same day, 2 years apart.
Okay.
And his mom was a single mom. God bless her soul. Have you ever heard of that? 2 sets of twins born on the same day, 2 years apart. Freaking nuts.
F that.
Yeah. And they were all real bad kids because they grew up in the 50s and 60s, and They were doing all the things. So there's my quick story for you.
All the things. We could use our imaginations on that.
Yep.
Sarah is the youngest, and she was the baby, and she was kind of viewed as the favorite. She was actually a model. And I will she's gorgeous. She's a natural redhead, and she is very pretty, but I think it's really taken to her head, unfortunately.
She's also very thin, and Erin and Andrea aren't as thin as her, so she's always kind of been like
in the spotlight.
Pretty one and like in the spotlight. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Erin was super intelligent. She's the older one. Her and her dad always had a great relationship. He was very proud of her. And Andrea was a typical middle child, like kind of, I think, forgot about a little bit.
Yeah, like where do I fit in?
Exactly. And I think she really did struggle with that. So she graduated from the University of Louisville with a marketing degree. She had a corporate job with Humana, being an analyst. So unfortunately, Humana had a very large layoff in 2018, and she happened to be a part of that. She's a single mom of 2 boys. She shared custody of them with both of their fathers. And after her layoff, she had been working with Missing in America as an investigator to help find missing people.
I mean, it's a good use of your time if you're laid off.
Absolutely. And also,
and these people were
what intrigued us to this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she's a person who helps investigate and find missing people like we do, but more. Like she was on the ground doing the footwork.
Yeah. Like crazy work.
So after this whole layoff situation, her dad said that she was a little derailed in life. And it was like a snowball effect. Like she lost her job. Her car was totaled in a hit and run because it broke down. She left it overnight. And then the next day it had been like smashed into and like pushed into a ditch or something like that. She lost her apartment. It was just like piling and piling. And she felt like she was drowning, totally overwhelmed.
Absolutely understandable.
That sucks. What a terrible place to be in, especially when you're a single mom, you've got 2 kids. You're like, what am I going to do?
Like, what next?
Mm-hmm. So the time that she went missing, she was actually living at her mom's house with her sister, Sarah, and Sarah's fiance, Ethan, who does some construction work. They were helping with a remodel on the house. Her mom was not living there. So late in the evening on August 12th, Andrea and Sarah got in a pretty heated argument. It sounds like they got in arguments often, but the neighbors of theirs said that it happened pretty frequently. They kind of assumed that it was Sarah and Ethan that were having like a little marital spat or something like that. They didn't realize that it was Sarah and Andrea.
Yes. And after the argument that they had, Andrea left and she walked to her sister Erin's house, the older sister. She got there around midnight. Erin had a friend over, so she sat on the porch with Andrea and talked. And I mean, Andrea's super emotional, and she's telling her how she just kind of feels like everybody's against her. She can't do anything right, just
like, hey, I need somebody right now.
Yes. I'm in a rough spot, and she's also feeling like everybody's against her.
Mm-hmm.
Erin didn't honestly appear to have a lot of sympathy for her.
Which is difficult because we actually talked about this earlier today, you and I, because I asked you, what would you do if you were in that situation? And a little deeper in the story, you will understand why. We can kind of see why she may not have been comfortable with her sister being at her house.
Yes. So luckily, Erin did actually have a friend over at her house. So Erin tells Andrea, hey, I'm gonna have my friend stay here and watch my kiddos while I run you back to mom's house. She runs her home. Erin goes back home. Well, a short time later, Andrea shows back up and she's crying again. She can't get in the house. Nobody will let her in.
So actually what had happened was Ethan had changed the locks on the house like a couple of weeks prior to that. They had gotten into some kind of a argument, something like that. It's said that maybe part of the reason why her and Sarah had beef was because Andrea was being a little flirtatious with Ethan and maybe crossing some lines. And it was a real weird, murky situation there. So she got the locks changed on her. And then when she left that night, Sarah and Ethan locked her out. She shows up to Erin's house. She's in tears. She's hysterical, but it was super late at this point. Erin had to work in the morning. The kids were sleeping. So when Andrea asked if she could stay with her, Erin said no. And this is something that
she feels guilt about now.
Deeply, deeply regrets.
She says it is like the worst decision she's ever made.
And how unfair, because she couldn't have known what was going to happen. And ultimately, if it didn't happen that night, it could have happened whatever happened could have happened any night.
Yes.
It's not Erin's fault, but we definitely understand that feeling of guilt.
Absolutely.
So Andrea leaves Erin's house at 1:38 in the morning. She starts walking back to her mom's, and it's like a 15-minute walk, maybe. So it's probably like right around a mile away. It's not that far. So luckily, Nancy, who is the founder of Missing America, who is actually best friends with Andrea, she required that all the members of Missing America had their Google location turned on for safety reasons, so that if anything happened, they could track where they were. And that GPS data shows that she got back to her mom's house at 1:54 a.m. It's also important to note that according to the GPS, the phone wasn't inside the house ever. It pinged outside the house. I don't know how accurate that is, but I do know that on Find My Friends with my iPhone, if I'm in the house, it will show me in the house. If I'm in my backyard, it will show me in the backyard. So I think GPS is pretty dang accurate nowadays. I don't know.
I think it is, but I know that I can't remember what it was that I lost. It was like, it must have been a phone or something, but I did like find my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see that it was like at my house on my property somewhere, but it did not show me
like exactly
where it was. So I think it could be skewed information.
It could be. But it was something interesting to note. To
absolutely.
Think about.
Yeah.
So the phone pings at 1:54 a.m. at her mom's house. It pings again in the exact same spot at 3:53 a.m. and then again at 6:31 a.m., at which point the phone was either turned off or the battery died. There was no cell phone activity between 3:53 and 6:51, and it sounds like the phone was only turned on briefly at 6:31, so there wasn't very much information that they could get from that ping. So you do with that what you will.
Yes.
Sarah and Ethan say that they were sleeping. They never heard her knocking. I'm going to go ahead and call bullshit, because if it's 2 a.m. and I'm trying to get in my house, I am pounding on the door. You will hear me. There's no way.
Especially being in the middle of the night, for one, because you're like,
yes,
trying to wake them up. And for two, if somebody knocks on my door at 2 o'clock in the morning,
I want to know what's going on.
You better believe
I won't go to the door, but my husband will.
I'm gonna like figure out what's going on. I remember one time I actually had somebody knock on my door at like 3:00 in the morning, and it was a police officer. The first thing I did was run to Jordan's room to make sure he was in there.
Oh my God.
Because he was a teenager. I'm like, this mother effer.
Oh my God.
But that totally wasn't it. It was, remember, I had my plates stolen off my truck.
Oh yeah.
And he was returning them so that I didn't get pulled over before I went to work the next day and like 20 guns drawn on me for the stolen vehicle that wasn't actually stolen.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So anyway, here nor there. I'm just saying, somebody knocks on your door in the middle of the night.
You're gonna do something.
You're gonna look. So either they probably heard her, and either
they were
one,
mad.
Yes, they're like, F you, you're not coming in.
Sleep outside.
Or they let her in when she came back, and who knows?
And some shit went down.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's Sarah and Ethan. They're saying, we didn't know, whatever. Andrea was never seen or heard from again after that.
And it seems like Andrea was a bit alienated from her family. I don't know if that's a normal thing or if it was just in the recent times that was happening.
It sounded to me, I read so I'm going to put some text message exchanges on our story that I found between like the sisters and friends. It sounds like Sarah and Andrea, as much as they bickered, they would kind of hang out together, and then Erin and Andrea would hang out together. Yeah, it was like a love-hate relationship. But Erin and Sarah did not, they didn't hang out, and the only time the three of them were ever together was like at family events. So it was an interesting sister dynamic.
It eventually came to light that Andrea was actually selling and using meth, which her family seems to be really hush-hush about. It was kind of bizarre how hush-hush they were about it.
Like it didn't come knowing
that I know, it's so weird. But knowing that now, this is where we're going to go back to like Erin not letting Andrea stay.
Right. So
there are boundaries that people draw when you have a family member that has an addiction problem and you are doing your best to not enable them. And I think it's very important for people to have clear boundaries.
Absolutely. I agree.
That's why I understand it. It's still.
And if Erin was setting a boundary in that moment
and she was sticking to it,
I mean, she had to work in the morning. Her kids were there. She didn't know what state potentially. I mean, this is all speculation, but she doesn't know what state her sister is in.
And I guess she was like really pretty erratic, not just that night, like, but in the recent times, she had been pretty erratic. So
she also had been released from the hospital earlier that day because she had a bunch of sores on her face that she was picking at, which is
makes
typically a common thing with.
Yes, it was infected. Like her face was actually infected. So we can start to see now there are multiple different sides to Andrea. It's like she's living different lives. It's kind of crazy. After she went missing, they also found a printer that is used for making counterfeit money and evidence of counterfeit $100 bills. It sounds like her dad was kind of hard on her, and I don't know that they were really talking during the time that she did go missing. Like, he didn't even know that she was an investigator for Missing in America.
Yeah, and that's really odd.
It is, but then it all goes back to this. I think depending on who you were, it depends what Andrea you're going to get.
Yep. So Missing in America is a group of women who use their own money and resources to basically provide additional investigation services for the families of people who are missing, because police departments are so often understaffed and they don't have the ability to thoroughly follow up on the leads. We see this time and time again.
Every
So they're
week we
taking
talk
it.
about it.
Yep. They're taking it upon themselves to actually do something and not just be like keyboard warriors talking trash on the internet. They do a lot of undercover work too, and they can end up in some sticky situations. They try to avoid that though. But this is where Tracy comes in. So Tracy Leonard is a private investigator that reached out to Missing in America to ask them if they could assist him on a case that he was working on. The case was on a man that went missing whose friend was murdered. It turned out that the cartel was involved in the case, and like it was some crazy shit. So Nancy, who again was the founder of Missing in America, she pulled the plug. She was like, nope, no members of Missing in America are going to work on this. I'm going to keep them safe. We're done.
Way too dangerous.
Yeah.
Andrea's phone records show that she had called several friends asking to give her a ride after she left Erin's house. At 2:12 a.m., she called and Facebook messaged one of the Missing in America team members, Suzette. She didn't answer, but Suzette did message her right back almost immediately and said, like, hey, what's up? But she never got a response from Andrea. There were questions and speculations about Suzette possibly helping Andrea flee or run away or something of that sort, because there were some footage of Suzette's car driving across a bridge. It connects Kentucky and Indiana, and it showed her vehicle going one way over the bridge at like 3:30 a.m. and then coming back the other way. I believe it was at 3:34. It was not
like
very
4
long.
minutes later.
It was not long at all. But after further investigation, it was discovered that the footage was actually PM and not AM, which makes a lot of difference.
Very huge difference.
Yes. So she was cleared of that, luckily.
Well, but I mean, Andrea's disappearance caused a major rift in the Missing in America group in general. Everybody was pointing fingers. There was a lot of emotional like turmoil going on, which is understandable. Nancy's frustrated with Suzette, thinking like, why aren't you admitting to what's going on? Why aren't you talking about your car? And Suzette's like, I didn't drive my car over there. Like, I don't know what's going on. But also
I don't have an answer for you.
But Suzette was also a little, she wasn't very clear and concrete in saying, I did not drive my car.
She's just like, I don't remember.
Yeah, she kept saying, I don't remember, which I'm like, okay, so was she doing something else at that time? Was she, and who cared? Like, was she out drinking? And if you were, who cares? Like, I don't think unless she was doing something really bad, why wouldn't you share that? So the way that she kind of danced around it did seem,
she got really defensive, and it was a little odd.
Yeah. And I can understand if she's defensive because she's being accused of something that she's innocent of. But
when she's like, she's my friend also.
Right.
Maybe that's why she was.
And that's upsetting. But
yeah,
to say I don't remember instead of absolutely no, that was not me, that struck me as weird. But anyways, there's another member of Missing in America who claims to have psychic abilities. And she went and visited Andrea's home, like right after she went missing. She showed up to kind of like look around, be like, where is she?
I'm actually kind of surprised that Sarah and Ethan let her in. But maybe they just didn't want to look suspicious.
Exactly. Keeping up appearances and not startling anyone is important.
It is.
So This friend goes to visit Andrea's home. Sarah and Ethan let her in. She said when she got to the top of the stairs, she felt this like pain in the back of her head. And then in Andrea's room, there was a hole in the wall. But when the
like
police,
that would be like head level.
yes,
she
like
said
a
specifically.
head level hole in the wall. But when the police got there a few days later to do their investigation, the hole had been repaired and the room had been painted. So there's no record of that hole as far as the police are concerned. But Sarah,
what is bizarre to me is I don't care if you are remodeling this house or not. Your sister just went missing and you're gonna paint her room?
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm not gonna be using any of my like emotional or physical energy to paint someone's room. I'm going to be pouring everything I have into finding my sister.
But also, don't you want it to stay the same if she's just missing? She could come back. Why would you? That is just bizarre.
There's also the thought process of like, why would you want to tamper with something that could potentially be evidence? Why would you, like her bedroom could potentially house some evidence, even if it's not the hole in the wall, even if it was somebody threw a basketball at the wall and it was shitty drywall, who knows? But yeah, why would you want to? Yeah, you wouldn't if you're normal.
You wouldn't. Exactly.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
There's the point.
So, members of the group drifted apart. They didn't speak for nearly a year.
It's so sad to me.
It is, because they were a very close-knit group of women.
Very close.
So then, Nancy had moved out of Louisville, but this case, Andrea's parents weighed heavily. This is her best friend. She was also under extreme social media scrutiny. So she left because she had to for her own mental health, but she still wanted to find Andrea. So she reaches out to a second investigator. And this man's name is Joe Fanciulli. And Joe, if you're listening and I butchered your last name, I'm sorry.
So sorry.
So Nancy actually ended up dating Joe. He's a really good guy. He's a retired homicide detective with an outstanding record of solving cases. Nancy had left Louisville after essentially being canceled by social media, but she and Joe went back to start working on Andrea's case again. But before they got there, they had a Zoom meeting with Tracy to go over basically the entire case. I mean, Tracy has been doing this investigation since literally Andrea very first goes missing. So in theory, he should have 18 months worth of documentation and what have you. Supposedly he had like a 3-inch binder full of information that he was just ready and willing to hand over to Joe.
And recordings and
but as soon as Joe and Nancy got back into town, Tracy just was MIA. Stopped answering phone calls, stopped answering text messages. Joe was texting, he's calling, he's leaving voicemails, nothing. Crickets.
So what's crazy to me also is there was a comment made where he said he felt like Nancy and Joe came into town to take over his investigation.
He wanted the clout. He definitely wanted the clout.
But also, if you're really concerned about the more people, the better.
The more the merrier.
Well, and yes, you're a private detective or like a private investigator. He was a homicide detective for a long time.
A very long time. And if you actually want to find this woman,
right,
there is no... Basically what he was trying to do was use this case as like his big break so that he could start charging the big bucks for his private investigation services with him and his brother. That is a complete hoax, in my opinion.
So Tracy's been working on Andrea's case since she went missing. No one hired him. He did it just because of his relationship with Missing in America. and the fact that they work together. The interesting thing here is that they weren't super close. He did say that they were friends, but they weren't really that close. Out of all of the members of the group, he knew her the least. It's unclear what his motivation was in working so diligently to find her. He said he had invested like $60,000 of his own money to find her. But also, like, you're unwilling to provide Joe with any of your findings. Freaking weird. Whatever. In fact, when pushed to hand over everything that he had for his investigation, his office mysteriously caught fire and everything was destroyed. I don't know that it was a coincidence because this was in like weeks of Joe coming into town.
Also, if it's a case of arson, why was Tracy allowed to go in and retrieve his computer?
But also, according to him, everything's in his head or in that binder of stuff that was destroyed, and he never put anything.
Oh, because he's old school. He's old school. He writes everything down, pen and paper. He's that kind of guy. So the computer doesn't matter, right? Because there's nothing in it.
What I'm thinking.
But he went in and he grabbed that computer.
He definitely did.
And in a case of arson, you're not supposed to be able to do that. I know that for a damn fact.
It was weird.
So now Joe starts talking to Randy Tat, who was doing a documentary on the Missing in America members. And Randy had recorded footage of a video call that had pretty much revealed that Andrea was potentially working on this dangerous case that Tracy was asking Missing in America for help with, and that either she was going to go undercover for them or she had already done it. So Randy says that Andrea was very professional and she was his go-to if he ever needed anything. He did say that he was never really able to get to know her on a personal level, though, the way that he was able to with the other members of the group. He explained it like she had a gift of gab. She could really talk to people, but without letting them in, like she had a wall up.
Which totally makes sense. Like, depending on who you are is going to depend on what Andrea you get.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea's dad and sister Erin have not stopped looking for her. If a tip comes in, even if it's in the middle of the night, even if it's in a dangerous area, they follow up on it. Sarah and Ethan have not helped at all with anything. They were interviewed twice by the police, and then weeks following Andrea's disappearance, they actually moved to Lexington, Kentucky. Before leaving, they reportedly declined any additional meetings with the police department. Both of Andrea's sons' fathers were investigated as well, and it was determined that they had no involvement. They both had their sons. Luckily, when this happened, they were both with their dads, so that, I think, is good. Depending on what could have happened. And now I can talk about my other theory. So maybe not only was he not wanting somebody else to come on and take over his investigation, but if he was in fact having Andrea work undercover in that case that was already said by Nancy no,
he could be screwed.
I mean, and maybe that's why he's holding the case and doing all of this work on his own, because if something comes up,
and then he can be held at fault.
I mean, maybe. I don't know how that works. I mean, they are investigating missing people. I mean,
maybe he just doesn't want the heat, because technically if Andrea was going undercover on this case, it would be of her own fruition.
exactly.
Or she's a big girl. She can make her own choices.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that, Tracy's not going to come under fire from literally everyone, because this is a pretty big case. I mean, it's got a massive social media following, because Missing in America is already very big in the true crime world. So Tracy's ass could be lit up if he was connected in some kind of way.
Yeah, I think it's just real convenient that his office went up in flames.
I mean, I'm gonna just say it. He seems like such a douche, like such a fraud. Like, you 18 months worth of investigation and you got nothing, bud. Nothing.
That's the thing is, though, is maybe he does have stuff. He's not. Why aren't you willing to share it, though? He was I mean, he was just acting real shady, like real hot and cold. He will say like that he will get something over to you, but then you don't hear from him for 3 weeks and nothing ever comes over.
I'm just wondering if maybe he was using the case to, like, he said he was working on it, but he wasn't. But the other thing, though, is Sarah and Ethan. Andrea's dad does not like Ethan at all.
At all.
Not a bit. They do not get along. But Sarah has pretty much like cut her dad out, supposedly saying like he's a shitty dad and he treated Andrea poorly and this, that, and the other thing, which is kind of funny because she was like the golden child, according to reports of the family. But Sarah hasn't spoken to her dad in like a year. But her dad is like, I don't want to, like,
he feels like he lost another daughter.
He does. He feels like he lost another daughter. And he's like, I don't want to push her further away by insinuating, like,
but we need answers.
What if Ethan did this? What if Ethan did that? But the other interesting thing to note is Ethan was arrested in Lexington on January 15th, 2019, for being mentally ill and a danger to himself and others. So who knows? Did Ethan snap? Was it one of those things where Andrea maybe thought, because here's the thing is, we know that addicts act outside of their regular personalities. We know that. So potentially Andrea is flirty with Ethan, whatever, doing whatever she's trying to do. Ethan follows suit. Sarah finds out, throws a huge fit. And then in order to save his relationship, he just like snaps and loses it on Andrea to try and be like, I would never, how dare you?
Or just trying to get her to shut up.
Exactly. Who knows?
I don't think that we have done a case where there is like so many different pieces and possibilities of things that could have happened.
Yeah, and we don't have anything to go off of.
There's nothing. Like this.
So also, though,
case is at a standstill right now. Like there is nothing else.
So we have screenshots of text messages between Andrea and Erin, like the night that she went missing.
Oh, look at you.
So on August 12th at 10:53 p.m., she said, I'm at the hospital. Can you come get me? With no response. Then August 13th at 1:10 in the morning, she texts Erin and says, they won't let me in the house, which checks out because she then walked over to Erin's house. Erin says, no, you can't stay here. But the next text is the next August 13th, 5:42 p.m. Erin says, I didn't want to say no to you last night, but if you stay with me, you will ruin our lives. Today, I have to apologize to all of my neighbors for what you did yesterday so they don't complain about me and try to get me evicted. Please go see a psychiatrist. Mom and Dad will help you if you do that. If not for yourself, please do it for your children. Love you. And I hope you go to the psychiatrist. I'm sorry.
Obviously, they were worried about her mental state.
Definitely concerned that they didn't know what they were going to be letting into their home. Like, I understand that. I do.
I get it.
God, it's so hard.
I know. So,
personally, just like going off of my gut, I think it was Sarah and Ethan, and if it wasn't, I think Suzette and Tracy have got more to say than they're saying. That's what I think.
I honestly don't think Suzette had literally anything to do with it.
I think Suzette did something that night. Whether it has anything to do with the case or not, there's something she's not saying, because her response, I don't remember. Yes, you do. Because you either were sleeping or you were not sleeping. And if you were not sleeping, the only reason you don't remember is because you were under the influence of something. Maybe she was using with Andrea. Who knows?
Could be. Oh my gosh.
So many possibilities.
This has been a mind
bender
screw. Seriously, I can't tell you. So the documentary that we watched is called Finding Andrea. It is on Discovery Plus. Is that right, Ashley?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Discovery Plus, and I think it's exclusively on Discovery Plus.
Yes.
It is a 4-episode mini series.
And they're about like 45 minutes per episode. So if you've got 3 to 4 hours to kill, check it out.
I highly recommend watching it. The reason I say that is because there is only so much stuff that Ashley and I can cover.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more information that we just can't put everything
in one episode.
We just can't. We really have to like try to pull together like the most important facts. But as you're watching each episode and learning about all of these different lives she was living, it is just mind-boggling.
I was shooketh when they said that she was a meth addict. There are zero
how
photos
are we this far in
on the internet. Like if you Google her, you see
just like a girl next door,
suburban mom.
Yeah,
pretty much girl next door. But then, you know, in the documentary, there is a video of her with the sores all over her face that she had to go to the hospital for. And it's like, damn.
I wanted to ask you during the interview that she did with Randy Tat for the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
At any point during that, were you like, are you high? Because I totally was thinking like, is she high?
No, not at all.
I totally did.
But my HIDAR is broken.
Well, I mean, you just have never, you don't have you've never been around all of that to like, have that.
So I just don't know. I'm just like, oh, that's a person being a person.
Yeah. I was kind of questioning it. And then I was like, gosh. And I was like, well, they're not talking about it. So that must not be a thing. And then boom, the 4th episode hits and you're like.
And her family doesn't say shit about it. Nothing about it. And the other weird part is that Sarah, Ethan, and the mom refused to be in the docuseries. Refused. They wouldn't. Sarah's mom is like, I don't even know her name.
I actually tried to Google it. I couldn't find
Andrea's mom is what I meant
Andrea's
to say.
mom.
But also
I tried to
Sarah's
find
mom.
it. I think honestly, like her dad's taking all of the like public work on.
Yeah,
maybe it's just too hard for her. Do you know how much scrutiny and stuff they're getting?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that, but
Maybe mentally she can't handle it.
Potentially. There was
Yeah.
a lot of text message exchanges though in this. The Facebook page that has all of the text messages is called Justice for Andrea Knabel. And it's got some tea. You want the tea?
Go there.
And that page is run by Nancy. So
I love Nancy.
Take what you will from that. Nancy kind of seems to be pointing a finger at everyone, but I kind of get it because if you went missing, I would literally be
everybody's a suspect.
Everybody's a suspect.
Everybody's a suspect.
And especially when you know, like when you're working and that is your passion is finding missing people.
And then your best friend goes missing.
That you look in the immediate circle. And that's where you look.
So I love her heart, and I know that this has really taken an emotional toll on her. And I will say that she found Joe.
I am glad that she found Joe, and I'm also glad that when she found out that the footage of Suzette's car was 3:30 p.m. and not a.m., she gave her a genuine, heartfelt apology and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry. Like, I was tripping. My best friend's missing. I was trying to figure it out. Everyone's a suspect. I still love you." And they figured it out. And I love that.
And Suzette was totally fine. She's like, I get it. Like, I get it.
Like, I get it. It sucks, but I get it.
Yes. So you guys, that is the story of Andrea Knabel. Like I said, I highly, highly recommend if this story like perks your interest at all to watch that docuseries. Once again, it's called Finding Andrea. And I don't know, see what you think.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your guys' perspective on this case. And it's just, there's nothing to go on. All the leads have fizzled. Hopefully we get some new information soon, but beyond that, there you have it.
That is all that we have, ladies and gentlemen.
Is there anything we have personally? What's going on?
Nothing. I'm doing Christmas finally with my brother and sister-in-law.
Nice. Oh man.
Because, COVID ruined the holidays for both of our families.
COVID ruined the holidays for not only like my family, but also my work family, because we just had our Christmas last night at El Gaucho. Oh man. And I accidentally saw the bill.
You're like, who? Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah,
sorry,
for real.
Sorry, Bobby. No, I was like, you into our podcast.
You're not supposed to see that. And I was like,
you're like, now I know why.
A month. It was so much money. Oh my god, it was ridiculous.
But that is very sweet of them.
It was
really
so much
great
fun,
employers.
Though. I honest to God have the best. Like, they're my employers technically, yes, but they're my friends. They're friends. My people.
Yeah.
They're your friends. They're my parents' friends.
I know.
They've joined our little group, and I love it. And it's so nice to, if you have a job that drains you and makes you hate your life every single day, I just want to encourage you to explore other options, because there are other options, and life doesn't have to be a miserable death pit.
Thank you for the pep talk, Ashley.
You're welcome. Well, I guess that is all for now. We'll be back next week with a brand spanking new episode. And
as usual.
There's a couple of you who have been listening who have sent in some suggestions, and
we are working on them.
I really appreciate that you're sending us suggestions. We want to do them justice. We want to give them the respect that they deserve. So if it takes us a little while, it's because we're doing our due diligence and trying to get the facts straight. But we are looking into all of your suggestions. And when we feel confident that we can give you a proper story, we will do just that.
Yes. I'm going to throw this out there. I don't know if you have noticed, but Ashley and I have not covered children.
We don't, for a reason.
Emotionally for us,
it's very difficult.
It's very difficult. I do believe that children's stories absolutely should be told. They're extremely delicate.
We know that stories of missing children are placed at the top of every police department's list.
Yes.
When a child goes missing, the most it takes attention. Priority over any adult that's missing. And there's just so much sensitivity that has to be given when it comes to those kinds of cases. And we don't, if we were to even get the smallest detail wrong, we wouldn't want to do that. We want to be respectful to the parents of families, and we just are leaving that to the professionals for now.
Yes. So, and I'm just saying that because I just want you guys to know, unfortunately, we are not at a point that we feel comfortable doing them. So, just want to throw that out there. We appreciate
your suggestions nonetheless, but if it's a person that is, under 16, I would say.
Because we did do Danica, she was 17. Yes. We did do her. I think that's the youngest that we've done.
Yeah, she's the youngest.
So,
but young children, it's a really touchy subject. It's really
difficult. And we have young very emotional for us.
Very hard.
Yeah. So we love you guys. We will talk to you next week. We hope that you have a fantastic week. Happy Monday.
Yeah. Happy Monday. We will talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.